Hello and good evening. My name is Christy Randolph, and I chose the case study of ADHD. The case was based on a second grader by the name of Gabe Silva that was transferred into the smooth sailing at the moment and she had planned to keep it that way class of Susan Savinsky. However, Gabe was about to take his teacher, Susan Savinsky, on a ride with ADHD that she had never dealt with in her teaching career and really wasn't prepared for. I also chose the case study of ADHD because my family has had to deal with ADHD for several years and we continue to deal with it on a daily basis with my stepson and son. They are brothers, however, ADHD affects their bodies and minds in a different way. No two people with ADHD act the same. I know that may sound weird, but that's true. ADHD affects society on a daily basis. ADHD is something that has to be dealt with correctly and in the correct manner. If not, it has dire consequences that can leave lasting results with someone with ADHD that didn't think with rational behavior. ADHD is made up of 4 letters that we as a society, at some point in time, myself included, thought ADHD, oh, I don't want any part of that. We deemed it as a bad word. Terrible. We view kids, my kids included, and Gabe as well, as kids that have irrational behavior, act wild, crazy, don't want to listen, people don't want them around, and we assume that it's due to bad parenting skills. We assume that it's due to drugs with parents, alcohol with parents. They didn't want to pay attention to their kids, but that's far from the truth. Heather Kirshner wrote an article for NPR in April of 2016 that states, and I quote, "Doctors for years have misdiagnosed ADHD as a behavior issue. They told parents you just need to discipline your kids a little longer and a little harder and you might get the results you want." However, you had patients and parents that were at their wits' end. Parents didn't know what to do with their children that were the patients, and you had children that were the patients that felt unloved and unwanted. Unquote. What is ADHD? ADHD stands for Attention Deficit Hyper Disorder. It is a chronic disease that's not curable but is treatable. She went on to say in the same article for NPR, children develop into adults with ADHD if not corrected. Sad but true, we as a society have for too far long not wanted to deal with the issues of ADHD. How can ADHD be treated? ADHD is something that requires many doctor visits and potentially many therapy visits. I, as a parent, have sat in many doctor visits and therapy visits and filled out questionnaire after questionnaire and thought this was ridiculous, and have countless times been told, here, take this medicine, try that medicine. No, I wanted a solution to the problem. Just like with Susan Kirshner in her teaching class. She wanted to teach her student how to learn, not break him, just bend him a little. And that's what you do as a parent as well as a teacher. You have to learn techniques and learn to teach your children. You have to be loving and supportive. How can ADHD be handled? You have to be able to find what fits that person, your child, at that moment in time. It may mean taking 5 spelling words a week as opposed to 20. Like the brothers, my sons, they don't take the same medicine because it doesn't work for both of them. One works for one and one works for the other. And they constantly have to be monitored. I take them to the doctor to have them monitored due to their height, weight, and their hormones. So with successful treatment of medication and therapy, patients can live a productive life. Families can be productive. And it may require counseling for the individual as well as the family. So in conclusion, just like with the teacher for Gabe, you have to be willing to go that extra mile and see what works for that child. Not all children are the same. School systems tend to set their kids up for failure. Prime example, my stepson excelled in testing because it was new. ADHD kids tend to do well in mathematics, and scientific equations because it's energetic, it's something new, it's challenging, as opposed to daily work. The school system put him in advanced classes. They set him up for failure. They didn't stop to think, hey, here's a child that does awesome on testing, as I'm sure Gabe did, but does poorly in daily work. So we as a society need to look at it as a whole. Do we use medication and therapy? Or do we use medication, therapy, a lot of loving, and common sense? So in conclusion, ADHD can be treated and you can live a productive life. It just has to take time and energy. And as I've always said, anything can happen. It's called evolve, adapt, and overcome. I would like to thank you for listening to my case study of my children as well as Gabe in his second grade class adventure with Miss Susan Savinsky. Thank you. Have a great night.